Forbes India, CNBC-TV18 present India Inc. on the Move. Smart Manufacturing, powered by Rockwell Automation.
Welcome back from the break, and as we settle down, we take our conversation forward at Forbes and CNBC-TV18 present India Inc. on the Move. Smart Manufacturing, powered by Rockwell Automation. Before we start our next session, I would like to make an important health and safety announcement. I would like to request all our guests to please wear your face mask, wash your hands regularly, sanitize your hands regularly, and to practice social distancing. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the manufacturing industry has always been driven by intense competition, leaving those who fail to keep up drowning in the sea of competition. Sad but reality. And it all comes down to how fast you can employ new solutions and how well you make them work for you. And not to miss, fundamentally, one problem-solving technology is cloud. From accelerating innovation and improving scalability to increasing agility, streamlining operations and reducing costs, cloud has the potential to transform businesses. And that's the topic of our next panel discussion, raising your manufacturing game with the cloud. Moderating this session will be our senior journalist and technology expert, Mr. Gautam Srinivasan. Can we have a round of applause and welcome back, sir. Our panel for this session comprises Mr. Uday Narang, Chairman, Anklian Omega Group and founder Omega Seeki Mobility. Can we have a round of applause for him, please? Welcome, sir. Dr. A.K. Tyagi, Executive Director, Haldiram. Please, if you can join us on stage, sir. Huge round of applause for him, please. And Mr. Adrian Giko, Director, Software and Control, Rockwell Automation. Sir, if you can please join us on stage. Can we have a round of applause, please? Another gentle reminder to use the summit hashtag IIOTM and to keep your questions ready for our expert panel. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. Indeed, we had a great discussion just a few hours ago where we were talking about how enterprises, manufacturing enterprises are co-creating value with customers and various stakeholders within the ecosystem. And the talk went around how data is the lifeblood for the enterprise, but channeling it the right way is where technology comes into play. And that's more important now more than ever because there is a national growth target for this sector to achieve, a $1.1 trillion target by FY26. That's according to NASSCOM. But reaching there is not as easy as it sounds. There is an inflection point for the manufacturing sector, and for India to become a global manufacturing hub, it really needs to raise its game, its cloud game, to get there. And the cloud, after all, has to be the heart of any and every enterprise. So that's what we are here today with these leading lights to understand how cloud can be central to each and every growth plan. So we will explore some aspects around that. First of all, we'll start with you, Uday. When we look at the sector, because the world is looking to diversify its supply chains, and of course, digital manufacturing is seen as key to making India the world's factory. So as pent-up consumer demand comes rushing back, the obvious question is to address it from a supply side perspective. So here, what are the challenges, in your opinion, that the sector needs to overcome to kind of bridge that gap, in your opinion?
Sure. Thank you very much. It's a great event. CNBC, Forbes, and obviously Rockwell have done a fantastic job. So I'd like to thank all of them. It's a great event to be. And what excites me is, I don't know about you all, I'm sick of being on Zoom, so this is something that excites me to be able to see people, to be able to touch people. No, not touch literally, but I think it's more like where we can actually have a one-to-one conversation. I think it makes me feel a lot energetic. I think, look, there is a huge amount of change going on. If you look A lot has changed. I know that the COVID hit, but after COVID, a lot has happened. We've had the Russo-Ukraine war. We've had, the US and the China, and that has done one thing. It has messed up the entire supply chain of the world. I think what is most important to understand, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, supply chains have really got affected. We in the automotive industry, and I'm being in the EV industry, there has been so many problems in terms of supply chain. And I think some of the questions that you've talked about, some of the things that you're talking about right now, is that cloud and IoT and smart manufacturing can make a major impact in terms of supply chains. In that we can actually be able to, we've able to change so many suppliers because we cannot have one consistent supplier now. So, traceability. So supply chain can really be helped with traceability. It can be helping with efficiency. It can help in making sure that we are paying and supporting the customers that are giving us supplies at a higher quality. It helps us evaluate the supply chains more effectively. Another issue that I'm facing today, and I think everybody, is security, cybersecurity. Everything goes on data. We talk about data. But what's a problem is there is requirement of security with that. In India, if you look at Europe and America, there are very strict laws. We don't have strict laws in this country right now. And all of our personal data is out there. Whether it is going to be, we talk about autonomous vehicles, we're talking about cloud, we're putting the data on the cloud. We have, all sorts of information. And I think in the automotive sector, everybody loves this new technology, but is there security to it? So I think that is something that really needs to be looked at. I'm sure with cloud computing, this is something that can be worked on. Another most important problem which all of us face is people. You can have the money, you can have the equipment, but you cannot make successful. I mean, Dr. Tyag, you must have seen, people is what made Haldiram what it is today. You can have the machines, you can have the money, but it's people, I'm sure, that has helped you, right? And so I think, I'm also into football. Man U is one of my teams, but they seem to lose everything. They've got the money, they've got the coaches, they've got the people. So I think cloud can help in, we need to upskill, skill, retrain workers. And I think that is something that is very important. And I think cloud and all of this is helping, and we need to keep working on that. So I think these are some of the things that I feel there are issues that, in the current space.
Well, to use your footballing analogy, hopefully the Indian manufacturing sector goes the way of Manchester City rather than Liverpool, which is at the bottom of the standings.
Totally love it. Thank you.
All right. Let's look at the exciting possibilities that smart manufacturing has to offer and the kind of trends which are shaping up, which are presenting exciting proof of concepts for the wider industry to adopt. So Adrian, if you could give us an overview on that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that question. It's always very exciting to talk about smart manufacturing and the possibilities there. I'd like to say first, it's very tempting to just start throwing technologies left, right, and center when we talk about smart manufacturing, but I think there's enough of a runway with the existing technologies that we have that if we embrace them, we can really change the game in manufacturing. But I'll give some examples of things that I see that are very exciting, that are coming. Firstly, I think there is going to be a swift move of operational applications to the cloud for a number of very strong reasons. It gives a lot of agility, better visibility, and the ability to innovate and iterate faster. A specific example of something that we're seeing now is this concept of data management, central data management done from the cloud. So that's something that we're seeing that's taking off. A couple other concepts, the industrial metaverse, right? So we're familiar with the metaverse in social, but what about the industrial metaverse? So it's about creating immersive virtual experiences where people can collaborate with each other and they can interact with the equipment, a digital representation of the equipment that is connected live to the shop floor, to the factory, and so they can, it basically creates new ways of interacting with the equipment remotely. That's one way. The other way that industrial metaverse can change the game is providing a simulated environment. This is a safe environment for people to optimize the equipment without really tinkering with the running plant. And then when they figure out what are the things that they want to do with the model that turn out to be good ideas, then they can roll those into production, into the physical world. So that's the second one. And then the third one, probably a more profound concept, which is that of industrial autonomy. So we talk about autonomous vehicles, right? And if you look at, you have a manual car where you control everything, all the way to a fully autonomous vehicle, which takes you from A to B without any additional input. So a similar concept we will see over the next few years, maybe decades, okay, in smart manufacturing, which is really this ability of machines and factories to learn how to perform tasks and then adapt to a changing environment to produce an outcome. And that outcome may be a production target. It could be reducing emissions or environmental footprint. So it's
an entire ecosystem play, not just niches. It has its impact in everything and anything that the enterprise does. And we have still just scratched the surface. There's lots more to come, isn't it, Adrian?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Let's look at some applications. Dr. Tyagi, Haldiram is a brand that we have all known and used its products. In a sense, you brought the engineering talent to a halwai, so to say, as we were speaking earlier, and you've done a lot of work in the technology side, in the manufacturing side, bringing it all together. So I want to get your thoughts on, the factories of the future, virtual production units which make things more decentralized, but at the end of the day, data still keeps everything centralized. Your thoughts on the possibilities that Indian companies can capitalize when we talk about the factories of the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the real example of the Haldiram. We are in the FMCG industry and currently we are present in around 80 countries globally. So we are operating recently, before 4 or 5 years, we have put up our plant, state-of-the-art plant in the UK. And we will be able to run that plant in COVID period also, due to the technology only. To run any decentralized and at a remote location, technology will play very role. It is not a digitalization only, it is also automation also. We have done, from the last 1.5 decades, we have done lot of the automation and we have converted halwai industry to real big
and what
food
about
industry.
The cloud, Dr. Tyagi?
In terms of
what about the cloud? At the end of the day, that's at the heart of your enterprise,
if you take
right?
the cloud, in the cloud, I think we have done lot of the work in the supply chain also. We have done lot of the work in the automation also. And we will be able to run the plant by remote access. We can do the installation commissioning of the plant by remote access. And we, at present, we are doing production planning tool. We are taking the dispatch planning tool. We are also operating this warehouse management. We are also operating many tools so that we can see our visibility of the product, batch number and inventory management, and also aging of the stock remotely and virtually.
That's in sync with what we mentioned earlier. It's making enterprises more proactive than reactive. Quality control, inventory management, whole lot of possibilities open up. And speaking of possibilities, let me address this from an ecosystem play. We heard Adrian talk about the exciting possibilities, but when this ecosystem comes together, whether it's industrial IoT, the cloud, AI making sense of that data, when it all comes together, how does it transform the value chain in terms of driving excellence, driving innovation, and driving sustainable growth? What's your thoughts?
I think this is a very important point, and I think what you're talking about. I think in the world we live in, technology, and I think if you want to today be a leader, and I see from my point of view, we talk of India as a 5 trillion economy. I think we have a chance where we will have to embrace technology. And I was very excited. I mean, honestly, when Dr. Tyagi says a halwai to using cloud, and I say, wow. I mean, this is the ingenuity of India, where anybody can use this. And if we can change it at this level, I think we can change it at any level. Efficiency, more productivity, and being able to produce products for an international market. See, I think India is set up, where China was in 1999. We can be a base for huge manufacturing. And I think, we have a younger population. We have the largest amount of younger people in anywhere in the world. And we can use, cloud. We can use smart factories. We can use technology for our benefits. And I think we have the best engineers in the world. If Microsoft and Twitter and all of these places, the Indians can lead. Well, I think the Indians can lead at home and can build products. And I think embracing cloud, and embracing all of this, and Rockwell is doing a fantastic job. I mean, I was able to see some of the work that they have shown here. It clearly shows that India Inc. is ready to use all of this for our benefit. And see, we are not just we are now producing products for the world. And I think this is something which can be used. And I think with this efficiency, better productivity, better quality, the brand India that needs to be built for higher quality is very much achievable.
All right, that's a very positive statement on India's prospects of becoming the world's manufacturing hub. And of course, a salute to the Haldiram group as well. As we do that, I'm sure the next time you open a Haldiram bhujia packet, you will realize the amount of technology which has gone into making sure that it's the best quality that you receive. But taking forward what Uday mentioned, as cloud expands its presence in processes, what are the possibilities opening up in terms of transforming that supply chain and looking at it from the perspective of improving agility, improving innovation? Your thoughts on that?
I don't think I can follow Uday's passion here, but I'll try, okay? So, Peter Drucker said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? I think in 2022, in manufacturing, speed eats culture and strategy and execution for morning snack. Okay, so speed is crucial. And cloud can bring speed and agility. So how can cloud bring agility? So it's in a number of different ways, okay? Cloud already changed the game for industries like e-commerce and entertainment, and now is the time for cloud in manufacturing. Manufacturing projects, large digital projects in manufacturing can take, somewhere around 12 to 18 months to implement. Implement a large MES, a complex manufacturing execution system can take 12, 18 months to implement the first site. This is because it's highly engineered. It's engineered custom to the application and the factory. With a SaaS approach to a manufacturing execution system, the application is mostly configured out of templates. There are thousands of templates that can be used and configured. There's no need to install servers. This is running externally, so there's no need to procure servers that today have a very long lead time, or networking equipment, firewalls, and configure that and provision for those. So with cloud, complex MES can take maybe 9 months, 6, 9, maybe 12 months. That's still 6 months ahead of an on-prem solution. 6 months quicker to market. I think it's a big deal.
6 months is a lifetime, mate, these days.
Exactly.
Right?
Especially, if you're working with in an environment where everything is changing, and you take 18 months to deliver a project, you're probably solving the wrong problem by the time you're done with the project, right? So speed is essential. That's part of agility. Scalability, graceful scalability through the cloud, up and down, right? So you increase the size of your team, you can increase the number of users, the number of stations, the number of cells very easily. No need to install additional equipment. It's just a click, basically. And you can scale down if your production needs to go down. You can scale down and save cost as well with the cloud.
So dynamic configuration, and as you mentioned about the SaaS approach, can you take us through more details on, say, the manufacturing applications when using, say, a SaaS approach? Because at the end of the day, for a lot of the manufacturing companies, it's also about incrementally increasing their cloud credentials and kind of picking and choosing what works and what doesn't. So from a manufacturing application standpoint, when we talk about the SaaS approach, if you can share more details on what Rockwell is doing in this space.
Sure. So I think there's, you can broadly split it into three phases of the life cycle. It's the design life cycle or phase of the life cycle, the operate, and the maintain phases. If you look at design, this is an area where you can have much more collaboration. You can have a life cycle management of your automation projects in the cloud, and it's a much more efficient way to get people to collaborate globally. Okay, people can collaborate globally because inherently you're above, any country when you're working in the cloud. So an example there could be a digital design platform that runs in the cloud. We're developing something called Factory Talk Design Hub. So this is it's basically a website. You go there, fthub.com. And we will be releasing later this year a digital twin type software where you can simulate a machine, a line, an entire factory from your web browser. These are computationally intensive tasks that we can run in any computer because they're running in a data center in the cloud. So that's an example for design. In the operate kind of area of the life cycle, there are applications that scale from monitoring production, monitoring assets, manufacturing assets, quality management systems, manufacturing execution systems, and supply chain planning. So all that range can be done as modules in a cloud-based solution. So we recently, Rockwell acquired a platform, a world-class platform of smart manufacturing called Plex Systems. And Plex has 20 years of experience in cloud in manufacturing. So this is crazy. So they started in cloud in manufacturing when cloud was, starting, right? And over 700 customers that are using the Plex cloud smart manufacturing system. They're using the same instance of the smart manufacturing platform. So there's a lot of efficiencies there in many different manufacturers using the same platform. The technology provider can iterate and improve that platform for everyone and take that feedback.
Absolutely. And it's great to see how the ecosystem, the tech ecosystem especially, is responding to make sure that the journey in the cloud becomes much more easier and smoother and modularized. It's a la carte versus a buffet model. We've discussed speed and agility so far. I want to bring in resilience as a point as well. Dr. Tyagi, your thoughts on that? Because in this post-pandemic environment, while speed and agility are necessary, I want to understand from you how is the cloud helping your business be more resilient? Because at the end of the day, supply chain disruption, supply chain shock, as you mentioned, inventory management, inventory, all those come into play. So how are you prepared to withstand shocks of the future by raising your cloud game?
Okay. Currently, we don't have the server. All the operation on the cloud, number one. Secondly, if you see India is a very difficult country. To run FMCG company in India, where you have 2.5 million outlets in North India only, which you are catering, and maybe 5 million or 6 million outlet in India, traveling with a so much diversified country, you can't operate without the technology. So therefore, we have. If you take how to reach our product to the 5 or 6 million outlet, especially in our food FMCG company, we have SFA. SFA means Salesforce Automation. The Salesforce Automation is a technique by which you can connect each and every retailer on your server, on your cloud, number one. So you are getting, suppose your salesman is getting the order, I can see the visibility immediately. Today order, today visibility at my office. So this is with the help of the cloud only. If you are getting my salesman, various salesmen in the various part of the country getting the order and seeing the visibility by the distributor and seeing the visibility by the company also, seeing the visibility by the depot also.
What would you say is the biggest change, sir? What would you say is the biggest change that you've observed?
Yeah, biggest change to getting the speed. Because when you are getting, you can connect with your each and retailer with the help of the cloud. So you can do your service of the product in better way. You can reduce the loss of the sale. At the same time, you can increase the line per the sale, and you can connect with the retailer, because whatever product is going to the retailer is selling to the consumer. So therefore, to connect the retailer by the company is very important. If you take the production cloud, so I can see my production right now from my mobile. Which factory is making the production, which factory is under breakdown, what is the region of the breakdown, and how many workers in the factory are working, what is the cost of the operation I can get tomorrow on my mobile, or maybe my computer. So it is a end-to-end. The manufacturing facility also connected with the cloud. Our depot also connected to the cloud. Our distributors, we have, I think, 5,000 distributors. They are also connected to the cloud. And our 5 to 6 million retailers are connected to the cloud. So with this type of the management is not possible without the technology, without the automation, without the cloud. And when we have done this total digitalization, really speed of our operation, cost of our operation, and to deliver, to satisfy the customer, increase the multifold.
Absolutely.
So now it has become the essential part of the business to have a cloud.
Things will never go back to the way they were. But Haldiram, I guess you could say, is an exception, right, Adrian? When we look at cloud adoption, as I cited the earlier NASSCOM report, still a long way to grow. While we are at an inflection point, the report finds that there are still many things to do. So in your opinion, what are the sort of barriers to cloud adoption in the manufacturing space that you usually see?
Yeah, so I would say there are some real technical challenges, valid technical challenges, and then there are some perceived barriers. Network, internet connection speed and reliability, that's a valid concern. In most cases, it can be addressed with strategies like automatic failover, redundant connections, as well as hardware acceleration to improve connection, reduce latency, especially for those applications where you're connecting machines to the cloud and you do a round trip to the cloud. That's where that latency is important. Cybersecurity is considered maybe a challenge, but it's also, ironically, is one of the reasons why most people move to cloud in the first place, because it's better to have experts managing your cybersecurity versus trying to do it yourself. This is akin to thinking that money is safer at home than in the bank, right? So cybersecurity, I would say, is more a perceived barrier. The selection process for SaaS, I think, in OT, in operation technology, is not mature enough. We're not used to that, right? So when a manufacturer is evaluating a SaaS offer versus an on-prem perpetual offer, then you need to do the total cost of ownership comparison properly and account for the IT savings, the server room that you don't need anymore, the electricity that you need to spend on that equipment, right? It's much broader than just the software cost. And so that it's important to take that into account. And embracing subscription models, right? We're still in an industry in general where it's a fire and forget, right? It's a one-time purchase order. I buy all the equipment that I need and I have it forever. That's shifting to more of a recurring relationship between the technology provider and the manufacturer. And that's a great thing because it means there's skin in the game from the technology provider in the outcome that's delivering for the customer. And the third one, I would say, it can be a valid concern as well, technical concern, is that cloud is versionless. And there's a continuous innovation there, which means that there's new releases that you may see that come up automatically. Like when you use Netflix, the interface changes. There's some minor changes in the interface over time. If you compare Netflix today versus 3 years ago, it's radically different, but on a day-to-day, you don't see it. It's just changing, incrementally, improving all the time, constantly. That's also a great thing, but it's a problem in highly regulated industries where you need to have, a snapshot of a system that is certified and approved, and you cannot be changing it all the time.
All right, but what about, say, large global conglomerates with operations spread across countries, right? When they kind of look at removing frictions in their value chain, what would you say to them in terms of how they should approach making sure that using the cloud in a way that it harmonizes across geographies, across systems, across processes, and more importantly, across people?
Yeah, I think that those are the companies that can benefit the most. They're the ones that have more than one factory, more than one site. I mean, the cloud is a layer of IT that sits above all the factories, which means that you can manage them as a fleet. You can start doing things like benchmarking one against the other, learning best practices and collaborating globally. So it is actually a perfect fit for that type of operation. But it needs some coordination, right? It needs some design. You cannot be making point decisions, in different locations.
All right, let's talk about external coordination as well, Uday. Do you think there's going to be a richer interplay between technology providers and, say, the manufacturing companies to sitting together, coming up with context-driven, outcome-driven solutions? Are we going to see a richer interplay happening?
Absolutely. First, I'd like to say, Dagiji, spent 35 years in Europe and America, and like 7 or 8 years in India. India builds character. I don't know if it's a difficult country, but it makes, I'm sure you have an extremely character. You have learned so much. And if you brought, so I think and I just want to say, India is complex, always will be. But then if you want 1 to 2% growth, then go to Europe. You want 10% growth, come here. So if you want a challenge, well, you're going to do some work. And so, I'm an old guy, but I think a lot of young men and women of this country are ready to do the work. So I think, coming back to you, I think absolutely the answer is clearly that if there is no, we have to move towards it. I would say not just global corporations and not just the Haldirams of the world, the SMEs, the MSMEs, everybody needs to move towards this. That it's the need of the hour, and I think India, I keep coming back to, and it's not that I put my money where my mouth is. I'm putting all my money into this country because I believe the opportunity is here. And it's not just for the big boys and the girls. I think every level. I mean, yesterday I was reading a biryani company is running clocking turnover of 500 crores. I would say, wow, right? What's in a biryani? So I'm saying there are so many different businesses in terms of technology, in terms of food. We've got a growing population. We have the largest amount of younger people in the world here. Guys, look at, I'm an economist by background. Look at that. And so to answer your question, technology is, I reach out to all the Europeans and Americans, boys and girls, come here, work with us, work in alliances, make it in India. I don't want to just import your technology. I want to build it here. You work with me hand in hand here, then we build it. So the answer to your question is everybody needs to do it. It doesn't matter whether you're a Kirana shop or whether you're a Haldiram or whether you're a Rockwell or whether you're a Reliance. Everybody needs to do this.
And everything is being made in India, and at least they're planning to, when we look at whether it's semiconductor chip or 5G products, everything is about make in India. So I guess that ecosystem is also becoming much, much more robust.
And we have the people. I keep coming back to it. It all goes on human capital. And I cannot emphasize enough that we have the engineers. Now, we want to work in universities that come out of students with more reality work. But I think we have, I keep saying, and I don't have any political affiliation or anything, this is a chance of a lifetime for all young men and women to build businesses here, to be the rock stars of tomorrow, to be the Haldirams of tomorrow. I think that, but you have to enhance technology, you have to use technology, you have to use cloud, you have to use newer technologies. We are seeing this in the automotive world all the time. So I think, we say, and because I'm in the electric business also now, the future is electric. I think the present is extremely electric for India.
All right. Dr. Tyagi, Uday is very gung-ho about the India opportunity and he loves the Haldiram brand. So as we look to wrap up the conversation with a few concluding questions, spotting unseen opportunities using data, any message to the audience that you would like to share? Using the power of the cloud, spot those unseen opportunities.
Definitely, when we collect the data through cloud, so we have also built business intelligence tool. So many times when we analyze the problem in a different way, suppose you can get the data, but you have to analyze the data very smartly and intelligently, so that by seeing the less number of the data, you can give more opportunity. So many times when we seen the data and we are seeing the business intelligence tool, so we have realized that suppose we have the A class, B class, C class product. So in some of the C class product, we seen the opportunity and they convert it to the B and A class product. So it is with the help of the cloud, it is with the help of the data. Suppose you are getting the data product wise, then you are getting the data SKU wise, then you are getting the data geographically wise, then you are getting the data outlet wise. Then such type of the opportunity will unlock and we will be able to see that this is the different way of doing the work. So in our business, we have achieved many milestones, especially in the sales and marketing, when we are seeing the data in a different way.
All right. As a summary statement, Uday and Adrian, maybe you could add to this. Is India's manufacturing sector ready for the cloud in 2022? Are we going to see more cloud-first frameworks evolve in this sector? You're gung-ho about the broad opportunity. You're gung-ho about the people. You're gung-ho about everything. But specifically from this cloud-first idea, are we going to see more of it from here on?
Well, we're born ready. I don't even want to say, are we ready? We're born ready. I mean, if you look at the data, okay, let me talk about the data. 21% growth in cloud. We have the largest amount of, we are number one in international bandwidth. I think we are number 67 out of 130 in cloud. I think that needs to improve. That needs to be there. I think SMEs, MSME growth, 50 to 60%. So the data is clearly showing that we have to, we have to use the cloud. We have to enhance, we have to embrace it. So I think absolutely there is no business without it. The data shows that we are continually growing in this. I think every business needs to, really, really embrace it. And I think there is no other choice. I think there'll be new technology, as it was great to hear from you saying, Netflix has changed so much and we don't know. But the Netflix 5 years ago and the Netflix 5 years from now will be completely different. So I think everyone, every business needs to do it. Are we born ready? We've always born ready in India.
Adrian, your summary thoughts. As Uday said, we are born ready, but where do we go from here? So in terms of the need to be cloud first, what's your message to the audience as we look to wrap up our conversation?
I think I agree completely. I think it's the human capital is here, right? I mean, we have a software campus where we develop most of these solutions. There are cloud solutions. We develop them here in India for the world. Okay, so we know the human capital is here, and that's the hardest part. Okay. I think it's just a mindset change. That's it. It's just it's believing that you can do it and that the technology is ready, and that's it. The technology is ready. You can do it. Let's just do it.
One last thing. They say, build Rome and they will come. I say, we've already built India. Bring them here. That's all.
I think you have a career in politics. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was some wonderful exchange of ideas between our speakers here on the panel on raising your manufacturing game with the cloud. How about we give you, the audience, an opportunity to ask them a few questions? Just raise your hands, address your question, to introduce yourself first, address a question to a speaker, and do ask. The gentleman here with the blue shirt, if someone can pass across a mic. Yes, sir, if you could stand up, introduce yourself and ask a question to a speaker.
Yeah, I'm H.S. Pansare from Pune. I have a question to Dr. Tyagi. Haldiram, the great example what you have given to us. You connected 5,000 distributors and millions of resellers. So I just want to know the time taken for that connectivity and ROI for the same.
All right.
Yeah. Time taken, approximate, if reply the time taken, so we are doing this work from the 5 to 6 years. Number one. So it is a long time to be connected and it is a continuous process and it requires the improvement on the continual basis. I think ROI is not an issue. I just support you with your question with the example. Before 1.5 decades, when we have think that we have to do the automation of the traditional product, so we are very clear the capital investment is very, very high, very, very high. But when we have seen after doing this capital investment, what are the benefit of the capital investment? Number one, conversion cost means labor cost, electricity cost, fuel cost will reduce by 50%. And you are getting the benefit in consistency in the quality and hygiene. And now we realize that it is a big benefit in spite of a high capital cost. Similarly, when we take the ROI, it is not a ROI 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. ROI may be 7 to 8 years. But for the full life, you are getting benefit of the cloud, you are getting the benefit of the technology. In terms of that, you can place your company at a better marketplace, better numerical distribution, better weighted distribution. Believe me, by doing this type of the technology and this type of the conversion, now we are the number one in the salty snacks. We are the number one in the traditional snack. And we command about 40% market share in the salty snack and 60% market share in the traditional snack with a numerical distribution 70 to 90% and weighted distribution 80 to 90%. This is the parameter of getting the benefit of the ROI or benefit of the technology. So in nutshell, with my experience, with experience of my company, I can suggest to everybody, the automation is a highly capital incentive, but benefit of the automation as compared to the capital cost is extremely high. Similarly, in an India type of the market, when we have a disorganized retailer, unorganized retailer, and number of retailers are very, very high, this type of the SAP and DMS will play extremely role. You can't lead your business without that. This is in addition to the ROI, this is the necessity of the business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's have another question from the audience for our speakers. Can I see some raised hands? A rare opportunity to speak with the leaders to understand how you can raise your manufacturing game with the cloud. Any other questions that you have for our speakers? The audience is a bit sedate, wouldn't you say? I think we need to pump things up, maybe serve them a cup of coffee. But I have a question. You know, when we talk about ROI, how exactly should that conversation now shape up? Because as Dr. Tyagi was saying, that they had a long-term perspective when it came to embracing technology for this. So the benefits are not going to be immediate. But in an uncertain economic environment, boardroom conversations can also look at the short-term aspect. So maybe Uday, your thoughts on long-term thinking with regards to ROI, especially when looking at the cloud?
Look, I was a hedge fund manager for 30 years, so looking at IRRs and returns, and coming from the United States, we look at every quarter return, forgetting about long term. But I think, it's what your perception is, right? Whether you want to run a marathon or a sprint, and I think, what Dr. Tyagi said, for an India, and this is what exciting me to hear this, gives me energy, for a very conservative, a company to say, I'm going to take a long-term vision. I'm going to invest today for a 7-year return. I think we have to look at a capital allocation. If I was a hedge fund manager, I would put money in short-term returns, long-term returns, bonds and stocks. So I would say, a certain amount of money has to be spent on long-term investment. I think certain things you're gonna put in the short term. The problem today, and I think we all face that, and as you really said, technology changes so fast. When you make a long-term capital investment, what is going to happen tomorrow? I'm investing in EVs today. Tomorrow, hydrogen might come out. And so, the investment is high. So I think you have to have a combination of short-term and long-term. You have to be nimble enough to change that. I think the time, when Haldiram started investing was a much more longer. Today, the technology and the world is changing in cloud, and new technologies are coming up, artificial intelligence, IoT, and I don't know what God, some guy or a gal in a room tomorrow will come up with something. But I think you have to have a long-term vision. We always at our companies are having a long-term, we're having a short-term, and then we maneuver according to the change. They say change with the time, or time will change you. So I think it has to be a combination of all of this.
All right, Adrian, any comments from you on the importance of long-term thinking when it comes to the cloud for any manufacturing enterprise? Any comments that you'd like to share for us?
Yeah, this 100% agree, from a financial point of view, short and long term, and I think from a technology point of view, it's similar. There are things that are foundational that you may not be able to justify the investment in a very short cycle, but there are some use cases that you can tackle that do prove that investment. If you combine enough of those use cases, you justify the investment on the platform, which is a longer term play. So I absolutely think it's a combination of short-term and long-term actions, but it does need a concerted, planned effort. It's a thoughtful process.
It needs a plan and a vision, but at the end of the day, it's a snowball effect. Once the proof of concepts keep building up, then a lot of executive sponsorship, a lot of employee sponsorship comes on board, and everything then starts looking different, and the magic of the cloud starts affecting the entire manufacturing enterprise. Well, we could talk about this for another hour, but I think we are completely run out of time. On that note, we'd like to conclude this conversation around raising your manufacturing game with the cloud. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for sharing their insights on the topic. A loud round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our lovely panel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on that note, I hand it back to our host, Maya.
Thank you so much, sir. And yes, thank you all for such a comprehensive view on defining how India can successfully implement Industry 4.0 and embrace smart manufacturing and start implementing new and emerging technologies to compete in the global marketplace. Once again, a huge round of applause for Mr. Srinivasan and definitely our lovely panelists.
Forbes India, CNBC-TV18 present India Inc. on the Move. Smart Manufacturing, powered by Rockwell Automation.